What's cool is when you're at a home show and somebody quizzes you on your vinyl coating and then tells you, can you give me a bunch of your cards? And you say, yeah, sure. And she says, I work for Sherwin-Williams and I want to recommend people to you to paint vinyl siding because I don't like the idea of painting vinyl siding.
Hi everyone, welcome to Inside SprayNet, where we feature the team behind the magic. I'm Carmel Marsala, founder and CEO of SprayNet. I started this company back in 2010, and shortly after, we began formulating our own proprietary coatings. Over the years, we've secured 4 patents on our processes and chemistry, and built an incredible network of franchisees all across North America. But enough about me. This podcast isn't about my story, it's about theirs. And today, my guest is Mr. Rodney from Indianapolis. Welcome, Rodney.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. So let's start with your story. How did you get here? Tell us a bit about Rodney before you were Rodney at SprayNet.
I came from the corporate world, but before that, my dream was in the basketball world. Of course, I wanted to play in the NBA. You have to be good to do that, and I was not. I got into coaching, and I coached college up in North Dakota for a couple of years, and then I moved to Omaha, Nebraska. But while I was in North Dakota, I met my wife, and when I decided to get out of the coaching world, we wanted to move somewhere where we were closer to family, so we ended up locating to Indianapolis just for a job opportunity that I came across. I worked in the energy industry for 9 years. During that time, I started investing in real estate, and that was my initial business plan. I was just going to buy a ton of properties and retire on a beach and live off of that. I wasn't smart enough to continue to buy properties as the market went up, and so as it went up and up, I didn't see the opportunity made sense there anymore. I always wanted a business. I didn't have a great idea for a business on my own. So I like to keep an open mind. I vetted a bunch of different companies, and SprayNet just stood out for both my wife and myself because it's unique. There's a true difference with what we do versus anyone else that is doing it. And so we decided that was a good time to jump in with our current life situation to get out of the corporate world and make a move that could better our lives for the future. So that's how we ended up here.
Interesting. For those of you who don't know you, on another episode, the skeptical customer came up. And that one person doesn't believe anything. And I actually thought of you. I'm like, Rodney would be that guy. He's a skeptical customer. He's the one who asks all the questions. He wants to make sure, and this is not just smoke and mirrors or snake oil. So I guess we'll seg into that, because often the reason why most people get into this franchise is the same reason why customers end up doing the job. So talk to us a bit about that. Were you skeptical? What convinced you? Why would that convince customers?
Skeptical is a harsh term. I like to use the term analytical. Tomato, tomato, right? Yeah, I am that guy, right? Somebody can come into my house. I can be 98% sold on the project or the service or whatever he is selling me, and I'm still going to say, let me look at some stuff. Let me think this over. And so, yes, that is me. And we deal with that clientele. Shoot, I was actually replying to some Facebook posts today of just, hey, looking to paint my brick. Who do you know that can help? And there's 20 painters listed out that'll gladly paint brick and not worry about the homeowner. And we have to fight that battle where we are offering a true value and a true helping aid to the clients. Sometimes that comes at a little bit higher price point because we are offering a premium service and a better service than what they're offering. Getting them over the hump hasn't always been super easy, honestly. I think where I live, there's a lot of competition. It's easy to start a painting business in Indiana. Indiana is very business friendly. So there's a ton of people out there gladly will take people's money and put some paint on a house and move on. There are videos out there that say, oh, you can't paint this siding because of this or that. And we can, right? And that's been the biggest challenge, is just getting the market understanding that, no, what I'm offering is different. It's unique. This isn't your everyday painting operation where I'm going to come and throw paint on your vinyl siding and watch it melt and move on with life. This is a different thing. So yes, that's been a challenge, and I get it, right? Like you said, I think you said analytical, not skeptical, right? So
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember what.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But there are people that are like me, and there are people that just aren't going to believe that there is something new. There can't possibly be technology involved in painting. This is just painting. And so we do get those people looking at us sideways of, what are you talking about? It's just throwing some paint on something. That's what I'm working on. I'm trying to get the word out there of, we're just here to help. I'm not here to get in the way of others. but we do offer a different solution and one that we think and have chemistry and data behind the fact that it is a better long-term solution, and just trying to get more people on board with that.
And this came up too a few times, is the value of being part of a network, an organization, franchise, whatever, the value that brings to your local market, to the homeowner. You ask those technical questions. Often you escalate those all the way to a chemistry team and you get those answers and you're able to answer. So hiring Rodney locally is hiring Rodney locally, the local business owner, but he also has the backing of everybody else as well as other franchise partners. How has that helped you, I guess, convince people or create awareness?
No, it's tremendous, honestly, because I'm pretty blunt, transparent with people, right? And they ask me questions sometimes, and there are things that I don't have the answer to. Rather than try to make something up, I will just say, that's a really good question. Let me go ask, right? And we have a team that's got more knowledge than me. And the other part of it is just the other franchisees. So the headquarters HQ team is great in answering those questions that they have the answers to, right? The chemistry answers, the production answers, things like that. But just having the support from other franchisees, that there's a lot of ups and downs in owning a business. Sometimes we call just to yell at each other for 5 minutes for no good reason, just because I needed to yell, and I'd rather do it to another franchisee than my wife and get myself in trouble. So having that network is really helpful and really useful. And when you run into issues, we always have people that we can reach out to try to help solve those problems. So it's definitely been a big plus, having more support rather than just try to do something on your own.
Yeah, because I guess for the consumer, for the homeowner, ultimately, sometimes people see, a franchise, it's not a local business owner, it's a big organization, I'm going to pay more. It's not the reality, right? I'm trying to undo that misconception. There's extra value and you are supporting a local business owner, right? Yeah.
That's been a challenge, honestly. Some people see that, not Joe's painting, and no, I want to support local. And if I can speak with those people, I can make the same argument, but sometimes we don't get to that point, right? Because your McDonald's is locally owned, right? But people still go there. Chick-fil-A is locally owned and operated. People still go there, right? So it's a hurdle that we have to overcome. But yeah, it is super helpful to have the support. And the other benefit of it too is our HQ team is always innovating and coming up with new things, and the roof coating is a huge part. I just had somebody ask me the other day, do you have any roofs I can drive and see? No, not a one, right? This is a brand new thing. But in order to bring brand new innovation, we have to have a team that's doing it. And it's not something, I'm certainly not smart enough to come up with these things. What's funny actually is sometimes when I'm describing to people, I just did a home show, how we make our own coatings. We've got 5 different exterior coatings, cabinet coating, and we have a new roof coating. We hold 4 patents. They'll be like, are you a chemist? I said, no, I'm certainly not intelligent enough to do this. But the fact that we are innovating and creating new things, some people do see the value in that and say, oh yeah, this is a big thing. This isn't just Joe's painting, right?
So it's the best of both worlds, right? It's locally owned with the benefit of having an organization behind you to drive innovation, to drive something you couldn't do on your own. And I think it's important for potential customers and homeowners listening to understand that. What's been the most surprising or rewarding part so far in your journey as a business owner?
Really rewarding is honestly being able to offer a place of employment and provide for families here locally. That's a huge part of why I wanted to do this. And then I'm a true believer in what we provide to people. I think we provide a tremendous value. Seeing people get to bring their visions to life is very appealing. And then honestly, sometimes it's even jobs that I don't win. I take a lot of enjoyment in talking with people and just being a helpful aid to them and a consultant. I don't like the term salesman, right? I like to go and just, here's my opinion, here's the solution that we offer, here's why I think it's good. It might be for you, it might not. And getting to meet a lot of people, hear a lot of stories. I used to sit at a computer desk, stared at like 10 computer monitors and Excel spreadsheets all day and said hi to like the same 3 or 4 people.
I would have never thought of that.
I know, right? That's my skeptical side, as you say. But I used to say hi to about 3 or 4 people a day, and that's it. And then I'd go home and I'd do it the next day. And now I get to meet somebody new almost every day. And I like that. So it's been a really fun part of it too.
And what I'm hearing is impact on your community, providing value. Our mission here is on the left, to offer renovation solutions that maximize value for our customer. As a result, our team. What would you say has made a real impact? Some people have spoken about their team loving their job and the customer reaction. Is there a moment where you're like, wow, we're making a real impact here?
Yeah, I think it's just when you see a nice reaction from a customer and a really thankful customer, we take a lot of pride in taking care of their home, especially when we're doing cabinets. We're a pain in the butt. Like we are in the way, right? We're inconvenient and we want to make sure that we are taking care of the home. So to be able to do that and then they get to come in and see a brand new kitchen or brand new curb appeal when they pull up is really fun, right? Everybody comes home to their same house every day, and to come home to a house that's just dated and doesn't look and doesn't provide any enjoyment. We painted my house with spray net coating, vinyl siding. We painted it blue. We're the only blue house in the neighborhood, and it makes my wife and I smile every day when we pull up to the house, right? So being able to provide that same feeling to people is really fun.
I love that purpose. And I think another recurring theme was, as entrepreneurs, we're a little bit like dopamine junkies. It's about the next hit and like that customer reaction. And it seems like that's been a key theme of being rewarding. Does your team feel the same way? Because I feel like that's also why they stick around.
And for the most part, we're all there for the same purpose. We're there to serve a client, something that they want. My team is really good at that. Most of our reviews, most of our compliments are on your guys are really polite, really nice, really courteous, took really good care of our house. Because that's a big focus, right? Like I tell people when I go to a consultation for kitchens, we want to give you a really great finish. We want to be fast, but more than any of that, we want to take care of your home. If I paint your cabinets and they look great, but I made a mess everywhere else, we don't feel good about that, and you won't either. And so that's our main focus, is just taking care of their home so that we can make it look better for them.
You got a lot of good 5-star reviews. What's your favorite one? What is the one the team still talks about?
That's a good question.
You probably remember the complaints, right?
I remember a few complaints. I don't know if I have one that comes to mind. Honestly, the ones that make me smile are the ones that I just mentioned, where it's about the team. When they list the actual names of the team, that always makes me smile. That means that they had some interaction with them. It wasn't transactional. It was actually a relationship, and they felt very comfortable with the people that we have in their house.
That makes sense. And you may or may not know this about me, but Rodney, you and I are probably more similar than you think. I always focus on the negatives, right? Because for me, the positives are like, that's what's supposed to happen. And when you look at the negatives, you're like, why is that happening, right? You focus and we go down this rabbit hole, but it's important to celebrate the wins too. And I'm saying that, and I don't probably do it enough, but entrepreneurs, we do need to celebrate the wins. And then there are a ton. You got reviews, you got a thriving team, you got a business that's being built and growing year over year. Congratulations on that. You spoke about a few things. You said getting the word out there, and that probably ties into this question about misconceptions people have about SprayNet. How do you handle the biggest misconceptions about SprayNet and get the word out there, create awareness? What's been the tactic for you?
Honestly, just trying to talk to more people. And I don't go in trying to sell that I have something better than what anybody else has to offer. Once we get into their home, I've got a lot of things that I can show to say, this is why we're different. This is why we're unique. Like when people get it, they get it. But it is a challenge that we fight because other painters will paint other things too.
So the biggest misconception from what I'm understanding is that people put us in the same bucket as traditional painting. Is that fair?
100%. I compete with a lot. Earlier today, somebody said, I'm looking for somebody that can show a visualization of my brick house being painted white. And 20 painters jump in and say, yep, I'm happy to help. Call me here, right? So they have this misconception that those other painters are going to provide the same service that we do.
And we've used the word different a lot. Let's say you get to sit in front of them and they're comparing. What do you tell them? What's different? Especially sounds like brick has been the one that you're handling most recently.
Yeah, brick and vinyl siding have been the most recent ones. What's different is brick is not supposed to be painted. Brick is supposed to breathe. And it's not a paint brick and this is going to happen tomorrow sort of problem, but it can really actually cause major damage to a home. It can corrode the brick from behind, basically, right? So paint can peel off brick, and yes, that's ugly, but it can actually do much more harm to your house. We quoted a job and they are actually tearing down half of the house because the brick has been painted and it has corroded the brick so much that they just need to tear down and rebuild it. And then if we win the job, it would be to sandblast off the remaining half of the house and then stain it all, because this engineer understands what happens with brick. And our stain allows the brick to breathe, so it's still the same maintenance-free surface that it's intended to be, and you don't have any headaches, right? The challenge is painter will happily paint the brick, collect a paycheck, move on, and when you deal with issues in 5 to 7 years, you aren't going to be able to get them to come back to take care of anything, right? And so what we're here to do is really provide an actual helpful service that won't cause you any problems down the road.
And for brick, I like what you said, we're drastically reducing the risk, because people will say there are some breathable paints. There are, yeah, but they're still not entirely permeable, right? They still sit on the surface. Depending on what's behind the brick, humidity from in the house or whatnot, that can still cause damage. What I like about our brick stain is it doesn't look painted. It looks like the brick came that way. I was at a masonry shop and one of the guys said, "Hey, you guys are the guys that paint the brick." And I said, "Whoa, why are you saying that?" "No, we don't." He said, "I see them, they're ugly, it's all shiny facades and that's not good for the brick." I'm like, "No." And I showed him the brick stain. He's like, "Oh, okay, leave your cards here, we'll recommend you to people." Because it's important that they see it, they see the difference. Like we got the sample where they're painted and they're stained. It truly does look better. You just have to know what to expect. And talk to us about the vinyl, because you said that's the second biggest misconception. And I know we're going to get into the roof stuff for sure, but how do you explain vinyl? Like, how do you let people know that we can do this?
It's just interesting because actually, much like the brick here, I've spoken with other franchisees, and when I say, yeah, I'm quoting vinyl siding, they're getting other quotes. They're like, what do you mean they're getting other quotes? Like, can't paint vinyl siding. I say, I agree, but other painters will gladly do it, right? What's cool is when you're at a home show and somebody comes up and quizzes you on your vinyl coating and then tells you, can you give me a bunch of your cards? And you say, yeah, sure. And she says, yeah, I work for Sherwin-Williams and I want to recommend people to you to paint vinyl siding because I don't like the idea of painting vinyl siding, right? So when somebody that works for one of the major paint manufacturers and distributors understands that what is offered over the shelf is not going to give what we can give, that's really cool, right? Now getting that out to the community to know has been a challenge. The darker color thing is still a shock to people, Garm. I have had, honestly, in the last 2 years, probably 12 people say, yeah, I want to paint this black. And I just say, I'm sorry, we've got a patent on our process and ability to paint vinyl siding darker colors, but there's still a limit and I cannot do that. And they say, why not? And then I have a picture that I show them. There's a house in downtown Indy I drove past last summer. I stopped and pulled over and ran across the street to get a picture because they didn't even finish painting. They're halfway up the wall and all the siding is melting, right? It's not, oh, this takes 20 years to warp. If the surface gets hot enough instantly, it's gone, right? I tell people all the time when they ask me this for black siding, I am here to save you 50 to 75% versus replacing your siding. If I paint it black, you're going to pay me and then you're going to pay to replace your siding. And that's not what I'm here to do, right? I'm here to actually help people and I'm not here to throw some paint on and collect a check and move on. But our vinyl coating, they're vinyl safe coatings. You scratch your fingernail on them, they are probably coming off the surface. You take ours, you take a wire brush to it, it's not coming off.
I love what you just said because for the, we're not saying skeptical, right? It's being analytical. That's what we're calling these people now, right? So for the analytical people listening to this, there are products that say vinyl safe on them. I think Sherwin is actually one of the ones that makes that. So there's two pieces to it. It's number one is adhesion, right? And like you said, something may or may not adhere properly, but really the second piece is, will it warp your siding? And the patent that we have is on our ability to put a base coat that fortifies that vinyl siding to increase the seat distortion rate so that it gets stronger and doesn't warp. So that's how we're able to put these darker colors on. And then of course we have a solar transparent top coat. So it's really our system that allows us to do that rather than just specific chemistry, right?
Yeah, and you could correct me if I'm wrong too, but more so than just the warping part, the vinyl safe part, to me that only means two things. One is the color is light enough from these big manufacturers, right? And the other part, so in order for it to be safe with vinyl because it expands and contracts, the product needs to be flexible. And so these vinyl safe coatings that are out there that you can buy from Sherwin or wherever, the vinyl safe paint, it's light enough in color, but that limits you on color choices that you have. The second part is it will adhere, but to move with the vinyl, there are two options. You can either have a really soft paint that'll be flexible and move, but then you're susceptible to every possible weather element that's going to cause it to nick and crack and chip and then start peeling. Or the other part is you use a really hard one, but then when your vinyl expands and contracts, it'll crack, right? And so there are paints out there, sure, you can put them on vinyl and they won't warp your siding, but how long is it going to last? don't really know.
Right, and then there's all the others. Is it washable? Can I pressure wash it? There's all of that other stuff, right? But I guess for the people watching that are skeptical, analytical, whatever you want to call them, we really tailor our chemistry for each surface. When Rodney spoke about flexibility versus hardness, there's always this fine balance that's different for every surface. So like for aluminum siding, for example, we may use a different product. We do because the flexibility doesn't need to be the same. And maybe some other properties can be better. So the fact that we have surface specific tailored coatings is what allows us to do what we do, right? Custom chemistry for smarter painting.
Yeah, exactly right. There's nobody else that's doing that. They're going to grab the same paint for hardy board, for wood, for aluminum, whatever, but each surface is different. Each surface requires something different. One of the things that I can't get my head around is if I'm painting a house that has siding and brick, why would I use the same product on those? They're two completely different products. How does that even make sense, right? Nobody's ever thought of it though, right? Because again, you look down on us, we're just these lowly painters. There's no technology, there's no chemistry, there's no intelligence involved in this, especially when they've got two other quotes and they say, yeah, we're just going to come and we're going to start firing at the house, right? There's nothing to it. This is different. This is custom for each individual person, each individual home, each individual surface gets a custom tailor-made solution to get the home of their dreams. That's a big part.
Yeah, that'll last, right? Yes, we are a paint manufacturer and a formulator, but we're in the business of providing value to those homes, increasing ROI, curb appeal, a new kitchen, right? The chemistry is formulated for our process, formulated for our equipment, and all three of those things really work together to allow us to do a kitchen in 1 or 2 days, or your exterior properly, or we either weather adjust if we need to, right? There's so much to this that I think you said we thought about it. Like we've done over 30,000 homes, right? So we thought about the process and the chemistry and the equipment that we use to be able to do that.
Yeah, and the process is what's often overlooked. They don't necessarily understand there's a difference in process that we follow as well, right? All the way down to what tip size are we using and what machine are we using to how do we get up to multiple stories where the accessibility is difficult. People don't always grasp all of that, but that's where it's on us to describe what goes into the process and make sure we're following that.
Long story short, if you're on the fence, you're listening to this, just invite us over and then we'll explain it to you more in detail. Take a look at our website. We've got a ton of information on there. We're going to wrap this up because this has been a good chat. What advice would you give someone thinking about two pieces? Thinking about calling us for a quote, and then second piece, starting a business, whether it be spray net or whatever.
Thinking about calling us for a quote is just thinking about what do you want from your project. I ask this to customers before I meet with them. I'm not here to waste their time. If what we offer isn't what they're looking for, that's fine. If you're looking for just the cheapest solution possible, that's not us. If you are looking for something that will provide true value and give you long-lasting durability where you have the peace of mind of I don't have to worry about doing this again and I want my home to look beautiful for a long time, that's us. We offer the best solution out there on the market for most surfaces outside. Same thing with your kitchen.
And you've done the research.
You've done the research to prove it, right? And then the second question was somebody wanting to start a business?
Yeah. What would you talk about? I'm sure you were on the fence. You hesitated. You looked at stuff. You were in and out of the process. What would you tell them? They're probably the same space you were at.
Yeah, I think it's just what do you want out of life? Truth be told is I could have sat at that same desk that I was working at probably for the next 15 or 20 years. Probably could have retired by the time I was 50, 55. I just wanted something more out of life. My whole family lives in Minnesota where I grew up. I see them once a year, and I don't like that. To me, life is about spending as much time as possible with the people that you love. And the way that I saw that being possible was to create a lifestyle where I do have more flexibility and do have more control of my time. It's still very hard at the beginning. I work a lot more hours than I did in my previous job, right? But the focus is always on the future and on what can be. I think we're moving in the right direction to get there, where I see it a few years from now where I might just go up there for a couple weeks in a row to spend time with my parents and my siblings and my nieces and nephews and just get to relax and hang out and enjoy life, right? And that's really ultimately been the big driver for why we got into this, is just we wanted a little more out of life than just sitting at a desk and making good money and not really being fulfilled with life. We wanted to really push and do more with our life.
I love it. And the franchisees that I've interviewed so far that are there So that's exactly it. It's like now I'm able to work a bit more on my business where I was grinding the first few years and not everybody ends up getting there, but if you put in the work, you can get there. And that's the point, right? It's possible to get there.
First few weeks in business, the amount of things that I would lose sleep out overnight, and now they're like, that's just, we call that 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's just what it is, right? It's no big deal. But I think it's just about having a very good reason for doing what you're doing, having your big why of what you're pushing for, and keeping focused on that.
Nice. And you said you want to hang out with the people that you love. So we get to hang out once a year, all right, at the convention. So I'm sure that's the highlight of your year sometimes.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Thank you, Rodney. It was fun. For those of you listening, you want to reach out to Rodney, his handle, his microsite, his Facebook page, all of that will be in the description below. Thanks again, Rodney. It was a good chat.
Thanks, Carl.